Nobody hates gamers more than game publishers themselves. They just treat gamers like cows to be milked endlessly for every penny in their piggy bank through microtransactions and other shady business practices. They're like a Morton Joe, and they got the gamers strapped into those nipple milking machines, extracting all the currency they can. But today I just learned the European Commission is trying to put the kibosh on these out-of-control microtransactions that are plaguing the industry, where they just treat the consumer's wallet like a communal glory hole for them to wiggle their wiener into and dance girthy microtransactions in the community's face. An admirable battle, but not one we haven't seen fought before, and it really always feels like nothing changes. I guess we'll see if there's any big repercussions from this, but I want to go over all of it here. There's also a YouTuber named Necrit who made a great video going over it, so I'd like to show you little clips of that too while talking about it. But in a nutshell, they did an investigation and they found there's a lot of really underhanded, dirty tactics used to try and obscure how much money you're actually spending in these games through premium currencies, where you have these fucking glorbucks that don't sound like anything, and they have a random amount. You have 400, so you have 400 of those, and then that costs real world money like $10. I just noticed I spit all over myself when I fucking spoke the ancient tongue there. I was trying to find a goofy sounding word for a made up currency, but I just couldn't. So instead I hit the fucking parcel tongue on it. Anyway though, I'm just going to play you a quick clip from Necrit's video where he covers this. I highly recommend you check out his full coverage of it. I think he did an amazing job.
Simply said, the real reason why premium currencies exist is because people have an idea of how much things should cost in their own native currency, but if I see something available for Robux, I have no idea how much that is. So one purpose of the premium currencies is hiding real value. On top of this, when you buy the premium currencies, you either buy a small bundle that doesn't give you enough currency to buy something, which means you have to buy more, or the bundle gives you way too much. And now the next time you want to buy something, you already have some of the leftover currency, so now you only have to buy the smaller pack to get it, so you buy again.
That's the whole hustle and nefarious scheme behind premium currency in a nutshell. And in the European Commission's investigation, they were looking at something called Star Stable Online. No fucking clue what that is. I'm not exactly, a big cosmic equestrian gamer, so maybe it just slipped under my radar, but they found it was particularly harmful to children. And that is the case with a lot of games, most games where microtransactions are available. Like in Roblox, for example. You have something for X amount of Robux. What the fuck does that actually translate to in real dollars? It's meant to be confusing, especially for a kid. So you see, on the Roblox stock exchange, or whatever they call it, I still can't believe they have basically a stock market in a kid's game. But you have a Rolex in there, right? And you're some juice box drinking little dweeb that really wants to be flexing that Rolly in Roblox. Well, you're going to need to convert some real hard-earned cash from your parents for the Robux that you need to buy it in game. So if you see the Robux there, you then have to translate it to real dollars, and it's meant to just obscure the actual cost of that item to hide the value of it, as Necrit stated.
The only reason premium currencies exist is because they make more money. There is literally no other use for them. You could argue that premium currencies work for brand building. I mean, look at the famous V-Bucks, or Primo Gems, or Riot Points. So there could be an argument made there. However, that would only be true if the companies also didn't pull off their shenanigans with the bundles.
If you ask me, I think it is a desperate, sad, Hail Mary argument to make. And I don't know why you'd be so desperate to lick the asshole of these companies that don't even view you as a human being. You're just like this little money goblin to them that they can't wait to fucking slaughter for a couple fucking doubloons to fall on the ground from you. There is no good argument for premium currencies as a good thing to the consumer. And over the years, we've seen a lot of hoopla talking about how bad this is and action needing to be taken, but it never really amounts to a whole lot of change in the industry. After the investigation, they concluded that things need to be a little more tightened up here, because kids shouldn't be getting exploited in these games by these companies that are just looking to try and make a ton of money off of them by confusing them with these premium currencies and shit. So they came up with some guidelines that should be followed. However, they're not law. So it's not like EA, like the executives, the top upper echelon brass of EA is going to be, seeing the inside of a Supermax cell because of their microtransactions in their games. It's not like illegal, but the guidelines that they've come up with, if they're not followed, it opens the companies up to being sued, and they will now have the European Commission muscle behind them where they can point to it and say, look, they exploited the children in this game through not following these guidelines that were laid out by the European Commission, and that just gives them a lot of oomph in the lawsuit, is kind of my understanding of it right now. It helped strengthen their case.
For the most part, it is focusing on the advertising to children in video games, because throughout gaming history, there have been many cases of children bankrupting their parents in video games. However, overall, everything is also aimed at protecting adults. It's more along the lines of showing that if you don't buy a boost or something really bad will happen to a character. Maybe they will leave, or they will get hurt, or something like that. Yep, there are games who actually urge children to buy something quickly to help the characters.
While all of it is focused on the monetization models that are targeting children, which of course is a horrible thing and something that's been talked about for a long time, what they are doing here also applies to protecting adults as well. So with the advertising thing that he's talking about here, it's trying to eliminate some of the most egregious, most foul examples. Like the one he gives here, I'd never even heard of that. I didn't know there were any games out there that were like almost like threatening you in game to make a purchase, like, a beloved in-game character. If you don't want this guy to get executed by the cartel, you're gonna need to buy some of our star coins ASAP, Junior. Get your pops on the horn, because you only got 30 minutes. He's gonna be gone forever. He's gonna shed the mortal coil. Like, actually scaring kids into making purchases in these games. Oh, you don't want your character to come down with cholera, do you? Well, impending cholera outbreak in T-minus 10 minutes unless you buy this cholera cure, which only costs $2 on our store for this flash sale.
Next, the games are not allowed to bait people with limited time purchases. Now, as far as I know, this is not talking about something like limited skins that are up during an event or something like that. Those should be fine. This is more focusing on those flash sales that happen in some games. But then it mentions that there shouldn't be purchases hidden behind small purchases. I'm not exactly sure what kind of a game would do something like that, a Star Stable Online. And lastly, it also mentions that if an influencer is talking about a video game, they should also mention the monetization. To be fair, this should have been a thing from the very beginning.
All pretty understandable, all pretty reasonable, I would say. And then here's just like the actual key principles with a bullet point list of them. Now again, these are guidelines, they're not laws. So if anyone is found to not be following these, they're not going to go to jail for it. But if a parent or someone is the victim of their kid being exploited by these games, and they are not following these guidelines, they can use this as a big piece of the case. This game was not following these guidelines that were laid out, thus it costs us a lot of money. We feel as though we have been wronged by these predatory monetization schemes. And while all of this is talking about things that are aimed directly at children, it does extend to anyone. This applies to adults that play the games as well. So it is a good thing, but who's to say if it's actually going to have any noticeable effect on the deplorable state of microtransactions in gaming. Now, there was more to it, however. There was another document that was going into virtual currencies directly and going over some things that will need to be changed. So a big one here that Netgrit talks about as well is that the in-game purchasing through virtual currencies will need to have a real currency equivalent. So in that example right there, you can see it's 750 diamonds, but it equates to 5 euros. So that shows the actual real money value, not just the virtual currency made up value, which is definitely a step in the right direction so people can actually be knowledgeable on what that thing costs. Another big thing comes from Principle 2 about practices obscuring the cost of in-game digital content and services. So this is talking about like the multiple premium currencies that exist in games from time to time. In Netcrit's video, he focuses on League of Legends and how Riot has multiple things like the Riot Points as well as the Ancient Sparks, stuff like that. So you'll buy like Ancient Sparks for Riot Points, that kind of thing. Well, in Principle 2, it's saying, cut that shit out. Take a fucking hike. only have one virtual currency. You would roll them all up into one, and you would still need to present the actual real money equivalent when you're displaying the price on things. So I think that's definitely a good thing, because there's a lot of games that use multiple currencies to confuse the player even further, where like, oh, I want this thing. Oh, but it only exists for the gold currency. And meanwhile, I only have silver currency. So I'm going to need to spend my dollars for silver currency to convert it to gold currency so I can get that thing. It's just another whole layer. So they're saying that that is a bad practice that needs to be avoided. And I think they're absolutely right. That shit super sucks. That blows ass through a crazy straw. So another good step in the right direction. I, however, would go even more scorched earth and just say no more virtual currencies in the first place. There is no good argument for the existence of premium currency in games in general. It is there for the sole purpose of being able to hose the consumer for more money by making it purposefully confusing the actual price that you are paying for the item you want, and also what you're even getting for your real money through these conversions on their bundles and shit. Like, yeah, I spent $10, now I have 600 emeralds. Well, what's the actual purchasing power of 600 emeralds? Maybe one item? Maybe 1.5 items? There is just no reason why you wouldn't just use money in these games, like Horse Armor did all the way back in the day. Where instead of, going on Roblox, for example, and you want to buy fucking fingerless gloves for 50 Robux, well, instead of buying it for 50 Robux, why couldn't you just buy it for $3? Instead of needing to go into the Roblox exchange rate of taking, maybe they don't do 50 Robux batches. Maybe you can only get it in 75, so now you're paying more to get that batch of Robux, like maybe that's the lowest they offer, so you get this batch of Robux, and now you have extra Robux lying over after you make that fingerless glove purchase when you only cared about that, and now you have the leftover Robux, which is the whole point, because now you have this extra, and it's supposed to be there to kind of entice you, like, hey, you've got this lying around, here's another item that you think is kind of cool. Well, if you made another purchase and converted some more money, you'd be able to afford it. And it wouldn't even cost as much as the actual sticker price because you had this lying over. It's just one of those things it's only here. Premium currency is only here because it is effective at squeezing more money out of the consumer. It would be infinitely better for the consumer if it was just dollars. Like if it was just like actual currency that you could spend on these items and it shows you what it is and what it costs for that. That'd be so much better. Now, I think this is a step in the right direction in combating these horrible practices for sure. I just would have went harder on it.
After which there is principle number 3, which might be the biggest one. This might actually change the pricing, because it mentions that games should avoid offering in-game virtual currencies only in bundles, mismatching the value of purchasable in-game digital content and services, and denying customers the possibility to choose the specific amount of in-game virtual currency to be purchased. In other words, you are not allowed to sell bundles that don't match the price of in-game items. Which means, you know how in League you go into the store and you have a look at those 1350 RP skins? So then you decide to buy some RP and you realize, oh no, 10 bucks don't give me enough and 20 bucks give me way too much. Ah, what a shame.
This one's pretty big because this is bread and butter shit for a lot of these monetization models where these bundles don't actually match on anything, which is why when I was mentioning the example with Roblox, I said maybe it doesn't come in batches of 50. Well, because oftentimes you won't find the exact price that you're looking for the in-game item. So he gives the example in League of Legends, and I think it's a great example. You want this skin, so you want to just get the 1350. Well, they don't have that as an option. You either get not enough or you get way too much. And the reason you'd get way too much is because you're spending more for that skin. Now you have the leftover, and that leftover is not going to be enough for anything. So you're just going to have to buy again in order to get the next thing. So the whole point is to keep you spending endlessly. There's just no benefit to the consumer for premium currency in the first place. Now, in this here, what they're trying to solve is that you can't do that anymore, so now the bundles would have to match that, which is, again, it's a step in the right direction, but all of this is not necessarily cracking down on anything, because all these companies can just not do it and probably be fine unless, of course, one of them or a few of them start getting big lawsuits coming their way, or they get into the crosshairs. This is here as guidelines, as I mentioned multiple times, that should be followed, but they don't necessarily have to be followed until some kind of big court case comes from it, from a family that's been bankrupted because their kid had been preyed upon by these games and their monetization models. So as of right now, I don't foresee any big changes coming. I like all of the proposed guidelines. I think they're all good steps. I don't think they're like an actual cure to how bad monetization has become, but I do like that it's working in a direction to improve it. That's a good thing to be celebrated. It's just they don't have to do it. Like, there's no obligation for any of the developers to follow these guidelines at all. They could just straight up ignore it and keep doing what they're doing. But I wanted to cover this anyway because here's hoping at some point this trend will stop. Because right now, and I've said this many times, it feels like games are made with the sole purpose of trying to figure out how it can be utilized to take as much money from the buyer as possible. The actual focus isn't on making a good game. It's on making a game that's good enough that it keeps people playing and keeps them spending in their store. That is the only goal for a lot of games that come out these days. And it sucks. Like, it feels bad. So, yeah, just want to talk about this briefly. That's it. See ya.